Good morning. Welcome to the Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Peter Mathews, and I'm your worship associate this morning. Nice to see you all. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that we are on the historic homelands of the various bands of the Kahia people, and we honor the unique relationship that we hope emerges between our community and the indigenous people and their traditional territories. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder to recognize, honor, reconcile, partner with the Kahia people, whose lands and water we benefit from today. Before we begin, we'd also like to have you know that it doesn't matter where you or your ancestors are from, who you love, your gender identity, your theology, your politics, or your immigration status. We welcome all those who are committed to our core values as expressed in our 7 principles. Together we come to this place to share our hopes, our dreams, and our visions. We seek to build a diverse and inclusive community that honors our first principle, which is the inherent worth and dignity of every being. So thank you for being with us this morning. Please consider making a donation with our virtual offering basket. Your contribution is an important way to support UUCOD. Those of you watching on Zoom can just click on the link provided in our weekly constant contact order of worship you received on Friday, or at the end of the service today through the email link you will receive. If you're here in the room, there are offering baskets next to each door where you can drop your contribution. If you would like to be on our email list to learn more about us and our programming, please contact us at admin, that's short for administration, admin@uucod.org. And now we will ring our Tibetan bowl to begin our service and then listen to our music for centering. Thank you, Reverend.
I'm the Reverend Ian Riddell, and I have the honor of serving this congregation as minister. We gather together today as we gather every day as a congregation and a tradition that celebrates the richness and beauty of individual lives and understands that the tapestry we weave together is made stronger and more vibrant by our collaboration and by the sharing of our lives and our visions for a community of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm inspired as we gather this morning by the words of one of my teachers, Reverend Mark Morrison Reed, who said, "I am at home among you. It is a place where I was nurtured, and because I was nurtured, I grew. Having grown, I could give, and having given, I grew more. It is a place where struggling I could fail, where failing I was still loved, where loved I could begin again. It is in a place where in pain I could go, where having gone I was cared for, and where cared for I could heal and go on. That is why I am a minister," he said, "to help sustain religious communities places like this one, places made holy by what people experience within them, the seasons of their lives and the healing of their souls. The power of community is enormous, and I have been blessed to live so much of my life in its embrace. In the embrace of that community, let us worship together today.
Writing for today, written by Leslie Takahashi. All that we ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, and a deeper joy in this life we share. Now we'll have Hiroshi Yamaguchi, my husband and friend, light the BioPOC candles. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as they journey toward spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail.
Ven a mí, Hello. I'm Linda Savard, the president of the board here at UUCOD. I know you've all heard a little bit about Beloved Conversations, and this morning I'm going to share with you some of the reasons why I am participating in Beloved Conversations. But first, I'd like to share with you some parts of our covenant here at UUCOD. There's 4 main areas. The first one is we will be mindful of how we communicate with and about others. We will seek a respectful and constructive resolution when conflicts arise. We will enrich our own lives by celebrating the diversity within our community. And we will build our beloved community. Under we will enrich our lives celebrating the diversity within our community, we promise to seek personal growth in our ability to be welcoming to those who are different from ourselves, recognize and honor the diversity of beliefs and spiritual paths within our community, including the words and ways people choose to express their spirituality. And be curious, appreciative, and informed about perspectives that differ from ours. And then once again, we will build our beloved community. When I saw that Beloved Conversations Within was being offered, I wasn't exactly sure what that would entail or what it really meant. However, I thought if this course would help me communicate better with others by understanding myself and others more fully, I was all in. I participated for the entire year with 5 others from our community here at UUCOD. We had the opportunity for in-depth conversations about ourselves and how we responded to the variety of poems, music, presentations, and essays that were provided for us in the program. It was a rich and soul-searching experience. I was stretched sometimes beyond my comfort zone, and I knew I grew. Besides our group of 6, there were 9 or 10 other congregants and our ministers that participated in the program. There was a significant number of us learning and growing and longing to share the information with the congregation as a whole. We decided that we wanted to continue our growth as a larger group and find ways to help our congregation grow more as a beloved community, as stated in our covenant. To do that, we knew we needed help and guidance. So we applied to participate in Beloved Conversations among. We were accepted into the program, and now we have a coach from the UUA, Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons. With guidance from him, we will be able to help our congregation as a whole grow more fully into our covenant with each other. We are committed to becoming that beloved community that listens deeply, speaks respectfully, and from the heart, and that welcomes all manner of diversity within our community, and grows together in understanding what it means to have beloved conversations and to live in beloved community. We will keep you informed, and you will be invited to participate in a variety of ways. What that will look like, I don't know yet. We've just started the program. But we look forward to how it unfolds throughout the year. I hope each of you will seriously consider how you can participate with us in this work. Thank you.
one of the things that's been frustrating lately as we've gathered together, which is such a wonderful thing to be here in person and also to have the ability to stream our services on Zoom so that we are together as a community, whether we are here in this room or not, is that we are still trying to pay attention to guidelines about health and safety. And as wonderful and glorious as singing is, it uses so much air and spreads so much air, and we really need to be careful. So I can hear you singing under your mask quietly. That's just fine. That's great. But we're not singing hymns together. And I realized that that didn't mean we couldn't make music together, because we have other parts of our bodies that we can use to make noise. And so I would like us to try a little musical construction together today. So I'm going to invite you to set aside fear and worry, and set aside anything nasty a music teacher ever said. They were wrong, you weren't. Okay? So I would just like you to do after what would you do what I do. Okay, I'm going to do this. So we're just going to keep going all together like that. Right now, we're going to resist the urge to speed up. Okay. So thank you. Good work. Good work. So that's not all we're going to do. Don't worry. Although that is an achievement. Congratulations. We are also going to now take that idea and do it twice as fast. So instead of once at a time, we're going to put two every time. So we've been doing this. So I'd like you to do that again. Ready? And keep doing that. Do it quietly. And then this. And stop. Good. Can I have this half of the room do? This half of the room, the double tap. Ready? And. Okay, stop for a second. You hear how they were? That is how they're doing everything. 1 and 2 and 3 and again. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5. And stop. Good work. So we're all together. We've just taken what they've done and subdivided it. My inner music teacher is coming out. So thank you for this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to that slow tempo, but we're going to use our bodies a little differently. So I'd like you have knees in front of you. So get rid of whatever you have in your hands or on your knees. And I'd like you to just think about this. It could be flap, snap, flap, 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 flap. Ready, and flap. Good. Good. Now what I'd like you, okay, that's what we're going to do. So I'd like to have these folks go back to the ready, and. You're going to do the double time. Clap, clap. Clap. And stop. Okay. So do you see how all of that, it's a little bit interesting, all of those different things grew out of the basic the beat that we were doing. And sometimes something interesting comes along and someone says, you know, I like that beat, but there's something else I'd like to do. And so I'd like to have you all go back to the slow beat and do it quietly. And just keep clapping and listen, okay? And stop, okay? So this is how it sounds. Try that, ready, and. So one thing to think about is, so little lift just before, ready, and. Okay, how'd that feel? Does that feel okay? So I'm going to have this half of the room for now do just the beat. And we're going to do the fancy one. Let's stop. Okay, now let's do this. Folks in the middle, you're going to do the beat. Ready? And. Double time. And stop. Wonderful. That's what we're going to do. That's it. That's our little bit of music for the morning for us to do. So you did very well. We'll do more of that stuff a little bit later. I'm going to go get the joys and sorrows. Oh, there. Thank you. It's also a good way to bring some warmth to your hand. These are the joys and sorrows of our community on this November day. Joni lights a candle of remembrance and offers these beautiful flowers for her dearest lifelong friend, Carol. Joni says she left this realm 7 years ago on November 12th, and I miss her every day. Cheryl lights a cautiously joyful candle that her neighbor Bruce Montgomery showed the first real signs of progress when his partner told him to open his eyes and then asked him to squeeze her hand, and he did both. Happily, he'll be out of his coma again. Candle of gratitude from Bryna to everyone who stepped up to cook or bake for Greg Salt's celebration of life yesterday and for Carol Lavoie's post-surgery time. She says, you are what puts beloved in front of community. The candle for Linda and Doug courageously meeting their challenge. And a candle from Sandra and Margaret sending love to our friend Joan, they say, who lost her partner of 56 years and heart on November the 5th. And we light candles today as well for those joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts, where we nurture them and hold them tenderly. Will you pause with me now in a moment of quiet for reflection, prayer, and contemplation? Spirit of life, we gather in this place. We gather with these people in this service that we share together in person and spread out through the valley. We have gathered. We bring our hearts and our minds, our spirits and our bodies to this place, to this time, to be together in this beloved community. Spirit of life, the world around us is full of anger and pain. It is full of joy and celebration as well. And so we bring all of ourselves here, feeling joy and feeling fear, feeling anger and feeling hope. We carry with us the loss of our loved one. We carry with us the celebration of new life. We carry with us the reality of aging and ill bodies and the reality of challenged and pain-filled spirits. We come to this place, to this community, as we always come, knowing that here we will be held. Here we will be nurtured and challenged and called to heal, to find hope, to find connection, and to know peace together. And we come here to learn how to be strong and to learn how to be weak and humble. so that the work we do in our lives, the relationships that we build, the hopes that we nurture, grow out of love and connection, out of beloved belonging. Holding all this in our hearts and our minds, in our spirits, and in our bodies, we pause in silent reflection in the presence of this beloved community. May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know love. A few weeks ago, I stood here and shared with you my convictions that the values that we share and hold deeply as Unitarian Universalists, values of love, covenant, worthiness, interdependence, and seeing reality for what it is, the mission statement of this congregation, to be a sanctuary for diversity, spiritual growth, and social justice. These values and statements are not neutral ones. They call us to action. They call us to transformation in our own hearts, in our congregation, and in the world at large. And this morning, as Linda shared, we're spending a little bit of time sharing with you and thinking together about one of the ways that we, some of us so far, and hopefully over the next while, more of us, are engaging with this transformative work this year. It is a program called Beloved Conversation. Now, this program didn't just show up last year when some of us started taking the class online. It's been around for a while. It's developed by Professor Mark Hicks and others at the FOS Collective, which is, as their website says, the FOS Collaborative Laboratory for Innovation in Faith Formation is a feisty cohort of religious educators who support people in living meaningful, socially conscious, and spiritually grounded lives. They are housed at Meadville Lombard Theological School, which is one of our Unitarian Universalist seminaries in Chicago. Now, Beloved Conversations is a program for Unitarian Universalists seeking to embody racial justice as a spiritual practice. In Beloved Conversations, they say we are here to heal the impact of racism in all of our lives in order to get free together. Now, Beloved Conversations has been around and practiced live in congregations for several years. It involves a coach from the program coming and working with small groups and larger groups in the congregation, doing individual work, the work that Linda was talking about within, and I'll come back to that in a moment, and work in the congregation as a whole. The Foz Collective says this about Beloved Conversations. We are proud that our traditional in-person version of Beloved Conversations has been offered in more than 250 congregations across the continent over the past decade, and are grateful that so many communities have made our program a part of their faith formation and social justice work. They continue to say that we have always hoped to expand our program out further and to create an online version for increased accessibility and to include folks for whom our in-person program was not a good fit. It takes resources to do that, and it takes time and interest to do that. And then the pandemic came along and gave them an opportunity to do just that. During the pandemic, Meadville Lombard developed an online version of Beloved Conversation, which they broke into smaller parts just because online work sometimes takes a little longer. The first year was 2 sessions, 2 semesters called Beloved Conversations Within. And the work of that course, as Linda shared, is to do some work in the selves of the participants, to soften our hearts, to open our ears and our minds to possibility. It's a program dealing with racial justice that is not based in shame, but in relationship, connection, inclusion, and our Unitarian Universalist values. I want to take a little time now and share with you some of the guiding principles of how this program invited us to do this work. So for those of you who weren't involved in Beloved Conversations Within, you get an idea of the work that we were doing and maybe some ideas for your own self. I think the ideas are pretty central to all of the work that we do in religious community and in our hearts. And I think you'll hear echoes of ideas you've heard from this pulpit from your ministers and others. Central to the work of Beloved Conversations is the understanding that we can create a world different from the one we live in now. And we can be part of creating that world together. And now, that new world that we create, things may feel and appear very different than they do now. And that's okay, is the important part there. And for those of us who are white, it is our work to stop harm, to transform systems that are set up to serve only us, and to heal ourselves in order to become more fully human and get free together with our neighbors and our Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. So these are sort of some of the grounding ideas, this understanding that this will require us to build a new world, and that's okay. It's going to be a little different. The work is grounded in love for community, love for self, love for the others around us. Grounded in the idea that this is lifelong learning for everybody. This work is not work where you get a certificate at the end of it and it says, you're done. You're good. That's all good now. It's ongoing work for all of us. The work in Beloved Conversations started, and we are trying in our work in this congregation to find out where we are right now and say, okay, that's where we are. What's the next? That we're not judging, we're aware of who we are and where we are. And as we look at where we are and who we are, we understand that everybody Everybody is involved in liberation. Everybody is involved in this work in our own way. One of the things that can be tricky in some of this work, and I know that this can be tricky in our congregations, and I know that we've all bumped into this occasionally, is that there are times when we are asked, as the white folks are asked to go off and do their work together as white folks, and the black, indigenous, and other people of color group are doing their work separately. And it feels to us, it can feel like, wait a minute, isn't that just perpetuating what we're trying to work against? And I understand that feeling. And one of the realities is that there is time and space for us built into that system where we can reflect together in ways that allow us to be more honest with each other without harming other people. The BIPOC folks do not need to hear the white folks stumbling through things and perhaps harming. And I will say, my understanding of this has grown because I know as a gay man that there are times and spaces where I want to be just with other gay men because I get to say everything I want to say, and I don't have to worry about translating. I don't have to worry. I don't want to be in that space all of the time. The goal is not to stay in those spaces all the time. The goal is to have spaces where we can be honest and true to each other and come together again to do more work. So there are times when that caucusing, that separation feels awkward, and it can feel that way. But there's a purpose to it and a meaning. We are all learning all the time. We're all learning all the time, and learning requires making mistakes. Mistakes happen, and that they have to happen so that we can learn to adjust. I want to share, as I'm going on, but what I'm saying in this sort of middle section of this is these are not just my ideas. I'm pulling this from the course materials that we've been provided, so I don't want you to imagine that I've written every single word that I'm saying today. I'm sharing materials from the course. When people offer us feedback about something, I want you to think for a moment when someone has said to you, oh, you did that wrong. Or someone has said to you, that thing that you just said or that thing you just did was hurtful to you. And think about how that feels. And I want you to think that that is a gift to you. It's an offering, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, because it's an opportunity for reflection. It's an opportunity to build relationship. It's an opportunity. And over time, we can learn, each of us individually and collectively as an institution, how to be more flexible in our responses to making mistakes and more comfortable, as they say in the program, with the awkward moments of learning they're involved in receiving feedback, making apologies, and attempting to repair. Think for yourself about those moments when you've chosen to apologize for something, how awkward and uncomfortable that might feel. And that's okay. And especially when we cause harm to others, even if we don't intend to. Even if we don't intend to, it is especially important for us to be able to hear what we've done, to reflect on it, and to offer and find ways to rebuild relationships. We're all figuring this out. And part of reducing the harm that is caused in many ways, but also, and explicitly in some of the work that we're talking about by racism, is being in accountable relationship with each other. Not going off on our own and staying off on our own, but building relationship with each other where we can hear feedback and give feedback to each other. It lets us practice our accountability to each other and move toward collective transformation. So during the with Beloved Conversations within program, we involved ourselves in many different modes of learning. As Linda mentioned, we were in large group seminars and worship. We had a small circle of peers that we worked with through the whole program. We stayed together with a group of people we got to know really well. And we all identified, this was really important, a critical friend. Someone critical, not in the word of offering critique necessarily, but someone who would offer us reflection, someone who knew us well enough and who we trusted well enough to be able to ask them, what did I do there? To be able to hear reflection from them, to be able to hear support from them, to be able to hear, oh, you did that, do these things really, really well. I know this about you. And maybe you can think about that. That crucial friend, critical friend, was really important for us in this work. So I want you to think about how you nurture relationships where you can have that kind of conversation, because it helped us build our resilience. It helped us understand how to be better in conflict and in discomfort. And now we are shifting into the among phase of beloved conversations. Among, meaning within our congregation. And they are focused on congregations and the ways that congregations are set up, the ways that congregations work together. And there is a group of people in this congregation who have agreed to be sort of leaders in this work, to help us all do this work. And they are working with our coach. And I didn't tell them I was going to do this, but I'm going to tell you who they are, because it's important that you know that these are folks in our congregation. These are in alphabetical order by first name, no other order. Barbara Storms, Rhina Bloom, Chris Eager, Denise Jansen Eager, Diana Leslie, Fran Hogue, Hiroshi Yamaguchi, Linda Savard, Margaret Manson, Rob DeWars, Sandy Sladen, and Sue Kaspari. I am also in this group. And this is the group that will be working with our coach. And we're building covenant together right now and teaching him about us, telling our coach about who we are as a congregation and as people. And the work that we're going to be doing together is looking at areas of our congregational life, areas like worship or religious education or how we govern ourselves, and looking at them through a lens of inclusion and access and relationship and value. How are our values lived out in the way we do things? How are our values lived out in the way we practice our worship service? How are our values lived out in what we teach in our religious education, or how we teach it, or who does the teaching? How are our values lived out in how the board works, in how we make decisions as a congregation? Our coach is here to work with us to help us see things in new light, or to see things clearly, to look through different eyes, or change our eyes a little bit so we see differently. The coach is not here to tell us what to do and how to do it, but to help us in our own discernment and decision-making. In our small group, we are not doing things on our own either. We are working to learn together so that we can advise and guide the whole congregation in the way that the congregation makes decisions. So you will hear, we're not going to go off for 6 months and then come back and say, this is how we're doing things now. That's not what our work is. Our work is to examine and look and work in collaboration and conversation with the congregation. The congregation will be involved in the process. That's a lot, but a little bit about beloved conversations and why we're doing it, where it grows from, and why those of us who have been involved think it's really important for our congregation. And the board and the diversity, inclusion, and belonging ministry teams are behind this work that we're doing. So I want to take a moment, and I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to take a moment, and the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons, who is our coach, has recorded a video especially for us today, and he would like to introduce himself to you. So I'm going to ask Rod to start playing that video, and this is the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons.
Oh, Maligayang Bati. Greetings. My name is the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons, and I'm excited to say hello and to let you know that I'm honored to be working with your congregation as a Beloved Conversations coach this year. Reverend Ian asked me to say a few words to just sort of, introduce myself and to connect, and so just a little bit about me. I grew up in a multiracial family in Portland, Oregon. My father is Chinese, my mother is white, and the Unitarian Universalist Church was my second home, the place I love to be on Sunday mornings. It's where my sense of community, my sense of faith really grew, and it was a huge part of my growing up experience. One of the tough things about the church was feeling that it didn't prepare me to live in a multiracial world. And that was hard. And I think one of the stories I've shared with the team is how in college, as a younger activist, we were working on an anti-gay measure that was facing Oregon in 1992. And I participated in the Welcoming Congregation program at the Eugene congregation because I was a student at the University of Oregon. And through that process, there was so much conflict and division around welcoming gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender persons. I remember people leading the workshops, leading the worship services, and it really struck me. I think on one level it felt hard, and I was really sad to see people unwilling to really engage deeply on homophobia and transphobia. And it also was part of my call to ministry, to think about how we can do the internal work to ground ourselves, to be able to build that beloved community. So I'm excited to be a coach with you all. I want to really affirm the work that you are all doing. Thank you, Reverend Ian, for the opportunity to say hello to everybody. And I want to say, the large is the reflection of the small. So the small work, the individual work you are doing is extremely important. I thank you for those and for everyone who's been putting energy and time into thinking about what is our analysis, what is our role, what is our place, what are our relationships as we try and support your congregation in moving in a direction that is more inclusive and welcoming. And I think another personal note, I'm excited to come back to the U.S. I live primarily in Metro Manila with my family. My wife grew up here, and we came back to the Philippines several years ago after I was working in community ministry, primarily with Asian American Pacific Islanders, immigrants and refugees in the Portland and Pacific Northwest area. But I'm excited to come back. We've got a kid who just graduated college. He's in Portland, and my parents and siblings are still in the U.S. But I'll be back in the U.S. for 6 months next year, so I'll be hopefully able to come down and pay you all a visit, and we'll get to break bread together. Blessings on your service today, blessings on the work you are doing, and I look forward to the next time we cross paths.
We are all really enjoying getting to know Reverend Joseph and working with him. So I just want to invite you to take some time over this week and think about some of the things that Linda has said and that I have shared and that Reverend Joseph shared about this program. If you have questions, we are always available to answer questions. Linda, any member of the team that I mentioned, and to me, we're here. We're doing this work together. And so there have been a lot of words today. We always have a lot of words. This is one of the ways we have to think about worship. We have a lot of words, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted us to do that clapping exercise, to bring our bodies into this space. And the final, almost the final, Malcolm will have a beautiful postlude for us after we've extinguished our chalice. But before we do that, I want to share with you some music. It's a video that was produced for our General Assembly in 2020, led by Dr. Issei Barnwell, and it's called We Are. You probably will recognize it. You've sung it. But this was Issei Barnwell and the General Assembly Choir virtually. So I invite you to be comfortable in your seat, to close your eyes, if you will, although it's a wonderful thing to watch, and just let this music enter your heart.
For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of Christ, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
And now, as Reverend Ian extinguishes the chalice, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we close today, I want to share with you the words of a dear critical friend of mine who has been with me in my seminary journey and my journey into ministry, and has been someone who's been able to ask me difficult questions, and who has seen me very clearly, and therefore has been able to offer me support in ways that no one else could. These are the words of the Reverend Joseph Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to move into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Go in peace, my friends, to love and serve the world.
you.